Welcome to Golden Beer Talks. Welcome to Golden Beer Talks. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us for our 100th gathering celebration. We weren't in a position to really celebrate our years of doing this because, well, you guys probably heard about it in the news. There was a worldwide pandemic and it shut us down for a short brief time. And so counting by the years is a misnomer, but counting by the gatherings, 100's a pretty good number. So thank you for joining us here at Golden Beer Talks. We always begin and end with gratitudes. We are going to start with our gratitude to the Buffalo Rose for hosting us here with such style. Our bartender is Adam. Our server here is Dave. He also runs this venue. They're amazing and they just treat us so right. Thank you very much, guys. Also, want to mention gratitude to goldentoday.com. That is an amazing local news entity and always provides amazing support for us, as well as information, news, stuff you need to know if you have anything at all to do with Golden, Colorado. So if you are not yet signed up at goldentoday.com, I highly recommend it. And we are really grateful to the publisher of goldentoday.com, who also serves on our organizing committee, and you will meet her very briefly. She's coming up on stage behind me. We are grateful to our very special table patrons this evening, Christy and Mike and their friends right over here. If you can't see them, they have a lovely white tablecloth and a lovely flower arrangement, and they are having some snacks and beers in compensation for the support they have offered us at our very special table auction, which happens in October. So third Tuesday of October, you too could attend our auction and get lucky and win a very special table. And if you couldn't be here in October, we would still take your donation at another time for a very special table. Thank you, guys. Chrissy and Mike have been supporting us all the years we've been doing this. So we are really grateful. Thank you. Wanted to mention that we are going to have an exceptional gathering next month as well. The Rose is going to be busy on the third Tuesday of May, so we are going to go across the street to the Astor House. If you haven't been to see what's been going on over there, we are going to gather at the Astor House next month just for one singular event, just one singular gathering. They're going to give us some lowdown on what they have done over there and what they're planning to do in the future and how they're taking the Golden community with them. So we hope you will join us next month at the Astor House. We'll be sending that information out, in all our channels as well. So that's going to be fun. If a very special table feels like a bit much of a commitment right now, did also want to mention that you could have your own Golden Beer Talks pint glass, and you can't put beer in it, but you can put other stuff in it. I drink coffee out of it on a regular basis. And they're available back there on the bar. There's a QR code, or we take cash money. So just FYI about what might be going on with your glassware collection and what we could do to augment it. Next, I'm going to bring up Barb Warden, who is the publisher of GoldenToday.com, and like I say, also a member of our core organizing team here for Golden Beer Talks. She's going to give us some lowdown. Jim Clausen, who is also on our team, is going to talk a lot, or a little, or both, about the beers we're offering tonight. So thank you again for coming tonight.
Hi all, thanks for coming on this auspicious occasion. My fellow planners here asked me to do the origin story of Golden Beer Talks. I had to pause for a minute there. In my opinion, the origin of Golden Beer Talks goes back into the 1970s. During the 70s and 80s, Golden was in a long down slope economic decline. By the late 1980s, about half of the storefronts in downtown Golden were vacant. And let's see, at that time, there were about 5 restaurants, and there were only 2 stores that were open on Sundays. That was Meyer Hardware and Foss Drug, and they both closed at 3. And the place was really not happening much in the evenings. And so the community decided they really wanted to do something to revive downtown Golden. It was our, not only was it an economic engine, but it was the hub of our community, a place where people met. And so we did several things to revive it. Most notably, we put together an urban renewal authority, and their job was to make downtown prettier and more alluring to visitors and more economically viable. And they did a good job. They and many other groups were involved in making downtown nicer. So by 2013, we were in much better shape. I was working on websites at that time, and I knew a lot of the downtown store owners because I was doing their websites. And I knew that I was doing one for Windy Saddle Cafe across the street, and I knew that Deanne, who owns it, was interested in doing evening service and wasn't having much luck at it because this place still pretty much shut down at 6 p.m. And so one day I was having coffee at, Jim. Space Bar Me. Look. Hey, I was having coffee with Pamela Gould, who was on city council at the time, at Fifth Ring Coffee Shop, which is long gone now. It's now Golden Orthodontics. It's down by the high school. Anyway, the 2 of us were talking about what could we do to make downtown more interesting to locals during the week. What would it take to get people to come downtown on a weeknight? And she and I were both very taken with TED Talks at the time. And we thought, we ought to be able to do something like that with all the locals. We've got all these Mines Profs and NREL people and Forest Service and USGS, and I'm sure there are locals who have interesting ideas to tell. And so we took that idea to Deanne, who liked it, the idea of hosting a bunch of people on a weeknight. And then we discussed, well, what should we call this? TED Talks is taken, and they would probably sue us if we tried to call ourselves the TED Talks of Golden. So, Golden beer has always been an intrinsic part of the Golden character. Coors was started in 1873, and they've been a big employer and big economic driver. And then in 1993, Golden City Brewery opened. They were real pioneers in the craft brewery business. And then in 2013, which is the year I'm talking about, there was just a sudden explosion in craft beer. Golden got 3 new breweries that year. It was Cannonball Creek, Mountain Toad, and Barrels and Bottles, all opened in 2013. So Pamela suggested, well, let's just call it Golden Beer Talks. And we thought, it's not really lyrical, but it is very golden. So that's how we got the name Golden Beer Talks, because it's short and obvious. So we, let's see, it's a little complicated bringing in craft beer at a very small venue like Windy Saddle, because although she had a liquor license and she had refrigerators and stuff back then, that was before the breweries were doing as much as they are now with putting their beer in cans. And so she really wasn't set up for draft beer, like she didn't have room enough for a keg. And most breweries at that time didn't have the next step down in size, which is called a sixtel. And so what we did for our first 5 years was my husband Frank would take off work early that day and go to one of the breweries with 15 or 20 growlers and just stand there and wait while they filled growlers. And he would bring them back to Windy Saddle. And then Whitney, who's always had a real gift for naming things, declared him to be the beer ambassador. And so Frank would stand there and tell us about the beer we were drinking that night and why he had chosen it and what the relative bitterness was and alcohol content and stuff like that. And after he did that, we would have one of our brilliant talks from one of our brilliant speakers, some of whom we're going to hear from tonight. And that is our origin story for Golden Beer Talks.
Get this the right height. And get back to tonight's brew. So I'm Jim Clausen, and since our beer ambassador is away on very important travels, I'm what they call the deputy chief of mission, apparently. So I'm a stand-in for Frank when it comes to beers. We wanted to have kind of a little bit extra selection of beers tonight, given the auspicious occasion, thank you, that we have tonight. So we ended up having 5 breweries help us out from the 23 breweries we've had over the past however many years, or 100 talks. So tonight we've got the ever-present Coors Brewing with the Coors Banquet Beer available tonight. We've got the Golden City Brewery with their legendary red ale. We've got the Mountain Toad Brewery with their Tasmanian Pepperberry Saison. Further, we've got the New Terrain with their Golden Haze IPA. And last but not least, we've got the Over Yonder Brewery with their Coco Forense coconut porter. And I can attest to that one, it's very tasty. And so we hope you get a chance to try one more, or heck, maybe all of them tonight. So those are the beers for tonight, and call up Whitney for
I think we can all agree that a beer-based speaker series needs a beer ambassador and a deputy chief of mission. Kind of cover the bases. And we do try to make sure we offer up beers from our local breweries, and we also try to cycle in some from various other locations. That's how we got to 23 different breweries over this time. Many of them repeats, and especially the locals. So that's been an honor in terms of part of this process too, is just how the brewers support us and show up when, this may not be the highest profile opportunity, but these are very often audience members who do appreciate a good beer. So thank you to the brewers in the house. I know you're here, Fred. I know you're here, Ryan. I'm going to start bringing up our speakers just to give you a quick rundown, because it's an unusual format tonight. We will have our 6 speakers come up. We will have a few more words on the stage at that time when they are concluded. We will take a quick break just in case you do need another beer or you would like to come by with your neighbor. Then we will have a Q&A. So the speakers have agreed to stick around. We will do a Q&A session before we close. If you have questions, please hold on to them and plan on getting them answered. We're going to start with Dr. Jim Dale. He first appeared at Golden Beer Talks in 2014, and it was across the street at the Windy Saddle. The talk was called The 3 Ds of Public Health in Our Community. I think I have, oh, look at this amazing slide of all these speakers we've had. Check this out. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And how about the breweries? Isn't this beautiful? People Mission put this together. We're thinking about a poster. Yeah? Check that out. This is our venues represented across the street from one another. It's pretty awesome. Dr. Dale is the retired director. Oh, we have some more pictures. Oh, we have an animation. Look at us. You guys check this out. Those were the days. We overcrowded the Windy Saddle pretty quickly. we got to a point where it was just too much to squeeze us all in there with all of our conviviality. And fortuitously, at that moment, the Rose was renovating, and the owner, Chris Cohn, was kind enough to invite us over here across the street. So he offered us refuge at a time when the fire marshal was extremely eager for us to find new refuge. And it's treated us really well. It's just an astounding honor to get to use this venue in the way that we do. Okay, Dr. Dale, the 3 Ds. Retired Director of Environmental Health for Jeffco Public Health Department, retired Air Force Colonel. I believe acting in his retiring position is the Chief Prevention Operations Office of the Air Force Surgeon General. So pretty knowledgeable about all this, plus Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, former City of Golden Planning Commissioner and City Councilor, and most importantly, in my view, the Golden Beer Talks auctioneer every October. Let's bring up Dr. Dale.
They limited me in this box. But hold on to your hats. You know why? I'm going to try to tell you too much in too little time. And so there's the 3 Ds of public health, right? Disease, disability, and death. Just have an example. Disease, COVID. Disability, 8% of the people who got COVID have long COVID. Death, 1.2 million people died of COVID. But what I want to share with you tonight is a lot about disease. So we'll start off by talking about germs don't jump. And then we'll go into pandemics, and I'm going to get you the bird flu too. So let's start off with the chain of infections, because germs don't jump. They're only transmitted by an orderly chain of events. And these links in this chain are breakable. So let's stop and think about it. For every disease, there's got to be a link called the source. And you know what the sources of disease are? Man and animal, or people and animal, if you will. And then those diseases from those ill or carriers have to be transmitted by things that begin with the letter F. And we'll talk about the big F's, because the big F's get it over to the susceptible host. And susceptible hosts are people or animals that haven't been vaccinated. Or they haven't had the disease, but still you can get a lot of these things without that. But, vaccines are good. Why not? So let's start again. Man and animal. Animals, about 75% of the new emerging infections come from animals, called zoonoses. But the biggie, the chain link that we can break, that middle link, are the big F's. And the big F's start off with fingers. Fingers. Fingers transmit disease. Feces transmit disease. Fluids transmit disease. Fluids that go into our body. Fluids that come out of our body. Aren't we lucky to live in Gold where we have great drinking water with a little bit of fluoride in it so your teeth don't rot? And then there's food. There's food. That's why we keep hot food hot and cold food cold. Right, Dave? He brings it to us hot, see? And then there's flying things, things like flies and mosquitoes and things that want to fly, like the poor little flea or the tick. And then there's things that fly out of our mouth and our nose, and sometimes they just float out. And I got to say this word. I got to tell about it. You can also get disease by fooling around. Those are the big F's. We can break that chain. We can do something about it. And I got to pull them about fooling around, but they only give me 5 minutes. But what's this thing about pandemics? They go, it's unusual. No, it's not unusual. Let's look back about disease pandemics. Now we know how disease is transmitted. Let's go on for pandemics. 1890s, Russian flu. Maybe it's a coronavirus. We'll say it's a flu. It killed 4 million people. Then we had a little break in time, 1918. Oh my gosh, they call it the Spanish flu, but kind of maybe it started in the United States out in western Kansas, but that's another story I can't tell because I haven't got time to talk faster. And then we had a period of time, and then there was the Hong Kong flu, and the Asian flu, and then there was the swine flu, and I might have missed one. but those are all causing thousands of deaths, if not millions. And then there were two scary events. One was SARS, sudden acute respiratory syndrome, and the other was MERS, Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, you get from camels, by the way. And those were scary, but they caused less than 1,000 deaths. So scary, but didn't happen. But the swine flu was really scary because it virus looked like 1918 virus, but it only caused, a few million deaths. So look, then we had COVID. Well, this thing's just a cyclic thing. We're having these pandemics all the time, see? What am I worried about? I'm worried about being prepared for the next one. And the way we do that is we fire people at CDC and get the hell out of there, you guys. Oh, well, I think I got a minute left or so. So let's talk about a current epidemic in Colorado. Highly pathogenic avian influenza. Do you know that this has caused us to have to euthanize 6 million chickens in Colorado? 6 million chickens. It's affected 41 flocks. We've got big laying flocks and broiler flocks and breeding flocks. They have got to get fertilized egg to have chick, And we have game flocks, and we even have a flock of chickens and birds that they take the feathers off and make some of the finest fly fishing lures in the nation. And 41 of these premises have been infected, and we had to put to sleep 6,000 to prevent suffering in the birds and try and stop the epidemic. And we only have 5,000 chickens at a time. But somehow this disease got over into dairy cows. You know what's terrible about that? This virus likes the mammary gland. It likes to udder dairy cows and reproduces there, and it can get in the milk. And so that milk kind of dripped on the ground or got squirted in the face of cats. And those cats died because cats are very susceptible to it. And then there's milkers. You know, we have a milking operation in Weld County. It has 6,000 cows that are milked 3 times a day. If you're milking like that, don't you think you might spill a little milk and have a kitty come up and lick it up, or go out and find a dead bird and get it? But if you can imagine milking that fast, changing old milk machines, where you might touch your face, you might, and then if you did, you'd get conjunctivitis. And all these people in Colorado, they have 40 milkers that got it from conjunctivitis. Now, there have been 3 deaths in the United States, maybe more, but they were all immune-compromised people. This virus could do something too. So, quickly, what I've tried to do is say, hey, we got pandemics. They're cyclic. They happen. Germs don't jump. Remember the big F's? And we got a pandemic going today in chickens and in birds, and we're hoping it won't spread into people and that virus change and mutate and drift or shift or what a thing like that. So, be healthy. Be there, and remember, germs don't.
Our next speaker tonight is Dr. John Spear. He visited us in 2014 and 2017. Both of his appearances took place across the street at the Wendy Saddle as well. 2 topics. In 2014, he spoke with us about rocks, rust, and fish, why microbes matter. And in 2017, from Mars to Europa. And his talk was structured around comparing some of his research sites to other locations in the universe. He's going to come back and give us updates, I believe, on both. He is a professor of civil and environmental engineering at the School of Mines. And I'm going to let him tell the rest. He's a student of microbes, but I guess that was already obvious. Dr. Spear.
Appreciate me, because I think this is the 2nd time in my life that I followed Dr. Colonel Jim Dale in a talk. Who is always outstanding. I want to first thank the organizers for doing Golden Beer Talks, because it's an amazing thing. Second thing I want to thank is 100 talks for any kind of event, to have something go 100 times is a remarkable achievement. So congratulations to everybody for being part of that. That's an outstanding thing. first thing I want to say is that science matters. Second thing I want to say is that, as Dr. Dale just referred to, is that microbes matter. And, you know, we had this severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, that came around. That was 30,000 bases of a single-stranded RNA molecule packed up inside of a little protein ball that cost the world society a couple of $1 trillion, 1.2 million deaths in the US, like Dr. Dale referred to. And that's an amazing thing. Something to think about with that is that everything in my world is alive. So if you look at the air in this room, if you take a cubic yard of air, yardstick, you know, this tall, that wide, there are, depending on the air, the room that you're in, there are between 1,000 and 10,000 microbial cells in that cubic yard of air. So take a deep breath. Think about what you just breathed in, right? I always say we are what we are, right? And breathing is one of those things. So that's an important thing to think about. I always start my classes with, we are overdue for our next pandemic. And you well alluded to that because we've got bird stuff going on right now, right? So what I want to talk about though specifically is, for a number of years I've been working on stromatolites in Yellowstone National Park. Stromatolites are these rocks that form by microbes. And microbes, they'll stand up tall to reach the sun in the daytime, and they'll lie down at night. The next day, more come up, and then they'll lie down at night. And you end up with a laminated lasagna of a rock. And that laminated lasagna of a rock could be found on Mars, for example. So you think about, if you see fine laminations in a rock on Mars, perhaps it was formed by microbes. And then we know that n would equal 2. Right now we know that life in the universe, n equals 1. It's on Earth. It's a remarkable thing to think about if n equals 2. Is there life elsewhere? And so that's something that we're trying to do with stromatolites in Yellowstone National Park. Our current work that we're working on with that is an update, because we're looking at chirality. Molecules have handedness, left-handedness versus right-handedness. Could you use that as a way to detect a biosignature? And so that work is ongoing in our lab right now. The second thing I wanted to update on is rust. I talked about rust back in 2014. And everything, all metal, wants to return to the ore. It came from ore, it became metal, now it wants to go back to the ore. And microbes help make that happen. Our update on that is that not only is my car more rusted than it used to be, because if you saw my car, you would know that it's returning to the ore quickly. That's just what it does. But what we're thinking about right now are implants. Implants in the human body. Implants fail, and implants rot. And there is microbial activity that goes on with that process. And so we're trying to figure out what that is. And we're working with Anschutz to do that at the University of Colorado Denver Medical School. So stay tuned on that. Might be able to give a good update on that in another year or two. The third thing we think about is microbes can serve as food. So fish eat fish. That's how aquaculture works. And fish eating fish is not a sustainable model, but fish eating processed wastewater from, say, New Terrain Brewing that doesn't have toilet water in it, you can use the microbial biomass of that to feed farmed fish. That project is being a little stalled right now. Mainly because of science is science. Science is important, and John can't get money. This is a problem. Another thing that we talked about is Borup Fjord, which is up on top of Ellesmere Island at 82 degrees north, 82 degrees west. It costs $25,000 to get a human there. So when you call up a travel agent and say, hey, I need to fly somewhere, you tell them where you need to fly, and they come back and say, it's $25,000. I say, is that all? Man, you got a deal. And, you know, it's up on top of northern Canada. And that site's remarkable because it's an analog for Jupiter's moon, Europa. And so we're trying to figure out sulfur metabolism and, again, biosignatures. We're looking at forms of sulfur there. But what I learned from Borup Fjord, Ellesmere Island, Nunavut, Canada, is that climate change is real. Climate change is happening. In 2014, I was there and I flew over a dry riverbed. In 2017, I flew over the same site. It was deeper, wider, and faster than the Mississippi River in only 3 years' time. My own research site there went down 100 meters and back 100 meters. So take a cubic 100-meter area of ice that is no longer there, and our research site disappears. Really frustrating. The last site I wanted to update on is a site that we worked on in Oman, on the east side of Saudi Arabia. We were looking at how geochemistry affects microbial growth in rocks. When water reacts with rock, it can make hydrogen, and hydrogen can fuel microbes. That's all great. A byproduct of that reaction is that that geochemical reaction craves carbon dioxide. So you can use that location for carbon sequestration. So the location where I worked on now is a drill site to pump carbon dioxide into the subsurface as a form of geoengineering to make the atmosphere have less CO2. Is that really going to work? I don't know. But what I worry about, and this is something that you can think about, is we can think about carbon sequestration and how do we fix global warming and climate change. But I equate carbon sequestration into a geological reservoir like a rock body. It's like taking a syringe full of mayonnaise and jabbing it into your thigh and giving your thigh a dose of mayonnaise. My thigh probably wouldn't like the mayonnaise. You know, I could put it on a sandwich and eat it and my body could process it, but my thigh, not so much. My point is, we have this whole subsurface ecosystem that we don't understand, and we're not treating it well. We're shooting CO2 into places where maybe we shouldn't be shooting. And this is something that we got to think about. So my task for you all is to, when you see something, hear something, read something, think about, does it make sense? In terms of, does that thing make sense as an organism? If you were that thing, how would your body respond to that? Personally, like I said, mayonnaise in my thigh, I'm not totally into it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker coming up is Scott Grossman. He spoke with us in 2017. Oh, here we go, Scott. He spoke with us in 2017 about the Peaks to Plains Trail. At the time, it wasn't as visible to all of us as it is now, as the progress continues. He's the project management supervisor, I think, for Jeffco Open Space. Yes. Field biologist background as well, master's in urban and regional planning, and has, therefore, many different perspectives from which to look at the challenges and the successes that have been had along the way, trying to get this trail that is meant to connect the Denver Metro to the Continental Divide at Loveland Pass. Here's Scott.
So first of all, thank you all for being here. This is a fantastic event. I give a lot of presentations, and it's very rare that I have a beer in hand. So thank you. Big shout out and thank you to all the organizers and the Golden Beer Talks folks. This is great. I will say two things. If I had known that I was going to follow two doctors and two absolute giants, I probably would have said no. But here I am. And I'm here to talk to you about Peaks to Plains. So I'm Scott Grossman. I'm with Jeffco Open Space. I run our design and development team, which basically does all the capital development side of Jeffco Open Space. And for the last 14 years, I've had the absolute honor and privilege to be the project manager of the Peaks to Plains Trail. So show of hands, who knows the Peaks to Plains Trail? That is awesome and exactly what I expected. Who here has no idea what the Peaks to Plains Trail is? Yes, absolutely yes. We're doing everything right. Peaks to Plains Trail is right there. It's literally a block away from us right now. Do we have a map? Let's do that. There we go. So Peaks to Plains is a grand vision to basically connect the continental. Did I do that? I didn't do that. Oh, there we go. To connect the Continental Divide at Loveland Pass, or Loveland ski area, with the confluence of the South Platte and Clear Creek. So that's 65 miles, 5,600 vertical feet. Don't quote me on those numbers. Those are real estimates, and they're pretty loose. But we're pretty confident this is going to be pretty close to that. The idea is to connect it with a multimodal trail and that quintessential Colorado experience. So from there, how many people here have competed in the triple bypass? Anyone? Yep, so you've ridden up and over Loveland Pass, right? So if you go up and over Loveland Pass, you get to Keystone, you can actually connect into the Summit County system, go all the way up and over Vail Pass into the Eagle County system, get all the way almost to Glenwood Canyon, and then Glenwood Canyon, there's actually a trail. It's the old highway that used to go there before the elevated viaduct was put in. So really the grand vision of this trail is really Glenwood to Denver at 180 odd miles. And I don't think there's anything cooler than that. And I'm absolutely honored to be a small part of what will be a legacy project and a quintessential Colorado experience for generations and generations to come. So when I was here last in 2017, we were across the street, and we had not opened a single piece of our segment of the trail within Clear Creek Canyon. So to back up just a little bit, that's 65 miles. Like all big regional trails, it takes advantage of existing trails and just slaps a new name or a new brand or new logo on it and says, this is that trail. That's exactly what happens here. So the Clear Creek County or the Clear Creek Greenway up at the top of the canyon, right where Floyd Hill and I-70 and US 6 come together, there's already a trail that will take you from right there all the way to Idaho Springs. The trail from Idaho Springs to Georgetown is done, and the trail from Georgetown to Silver Plume is done, and the trail from Bakersville to Loveland is done. So pretty much everything at the top of the canyon up to Loveland is done, or we call that it's passable as shared shoulder of Highway 40. If you take a right as you walk out of here and go down to the trail, you can go all the way to the confluence of the South Platte right now. From there, you can hang a right, and in 7-ish miles, you're at Confluence Park, and you can go buy a brand new bike at REI to ride all the way back here. The big missing link to all of that is Clear Creek Canyon. I think we're all from this general area, so we know how tough and rugged and difficult that is. That's what we're working on. Clear Creek Canyon is 16 and a half miles long, roughly. Of that, about 13 and a half miles of that is in Jeffco. You have about 3 miles in Clear Creek County. So here we are. We're working to fill in that missing link to make this dream a reality. Last time I was here, I think the big boos really came that this is going to take too long. That was 8 years ago. It was, I think, May 9th of 2017. So in 8 years, we have opened 3 segments, and I'm here to tell you that we're just about to open our 4th segment. So we're chipping away at it, little by little. We're going to get there. I'll have more gray hair. I'll have less hair up here, and probably a little thicker down here, but we're going to get there. So looking at this map, we opened the first 4 miles in conjunction with Clear Creek County. So that's the western side here, the green trail. Basically starts at the west side of Tunnel 5. Mile in Clear Creek County, and then 3 miles in Jeffco. That was opened in 2 pieces in 2016 and 2017. Now, I get this question all the time, and I'm going to pose it back to you. Why is the trail starting in the middle of the canyon, or doesn't connect to anything? It's just starting kind of as an island in the middle? Anyone have any idea why the canyon's not starting at, or the trail's not starting at the top or the bottom? Pat knows. He's not allowed to answer. Anyone else in the room? It's too hard. It is really hard. That section's also hard. Any others? So in 2011, who knows GoCo? Anyone know GoCo here? Great Outdoors, Colorado? So if you play the lottery, your money goes, any money that doesn't go to the winners goes to outdoor recreation, parks, trails, recreation centers. It's awesome. Colorado is the only state in the entire country that does that and takes their lottery money and puts it back into stuff like this. In 2011, GoCo put out a special initiative for trail projects that connect people to water. It's the River Corridors Initiative. We as Jeffco Open Space have been looking at this trail for a bunch of years. We had a feasibility study that was finished in 2006. We put a concept paper to start right here, right in Golden, and go up to Tunnel 1, or just around Tunnel 1. Clear Creek County had the same idea. They started at the top of the canyon and said, we're going to start at our western part and work down. GoCo, in their infinite wisdom, which I agree with, said, hey, come together, put one proposal together, we'll give you more money, and you can do that project together. So instead of starting at the bottom and the top, we started 2/3 the way up, spanned the county line, built the model home of what this trail is going to be, and that's why that started first. So first 3 miles in 2016, last mile in 2017. So from there, we moved to the bottom of the canyon, or the mouth of the canyon, the gateway. So that is all the way on the right. It is, I can't tell that color, is it blue? Looks like blue, right? Dark blue? We started there. We were funded by another GoCo grant and some federal highway money. We opened that to the public in 2021, August of 2021. That's 1.75 miles. So remember I mentioned we had 13 and a half miles. We opened 3 miles in 16 and 17. We just opened another 1.75 miles in 2021. So that brings us almost to 5 of that 13 and a half miles. Who was there in 2021 when we opened that? Anyone? Thank you for coming. Who's been there since we opened that in August 2021? Everyone should be raising their hands. Come on now. It's right there. So that trail, or that piece brought in the biggest trailhead that we'll build. That's the Gateway Trailhead. It's about 130 cars. It's all interlocking concrete permeable pavers. If you don't know that, that's a super cool thing. I'm happy to go into way more detail on that when we hang out and drink beers after this. So the red box up here, that's the cool one. That's what we're working on right now. That is the Huntsman Gulch segment, named because it ends at the western segment at Huntsman Gulch. This is a 3-mile segment, and if you've been in the canyon anytime in the last 2.5 years, you've probably encountered a 1-lane closure sometime Monday through Friday. Try to get off by noon on Friday. A little bit later, I'm sorry. Really sorry for everything else that's happened in the canyon. It is worth it. It's going to be awesome, trust me. But this 3-mile segment, we broke ground on in 2022. Started design in 2021, broke ground in 2022. And I'm really excited to say we're going to open the first roughly 1.25 miles, 1.25 miles by the end of this year. So by the end of this year, you'll be able to go from here, and instead of 1.75 miles, you'll be at another 1.25 miles. So you'll be up to 3 miles. So from here, that's like 6.5 miles, maybe 7 miles round trip. That's a really big accomplishment for us. If you've been through the canyon, you probably noticed some pretty wild construction. We're basically building a mini Glenwood Canyon. Of that 3 miles, 1.25 miles of that is built on viaduct. So we basically drill caissons from micropiles deep into the ground, 10 feet into bedrock, build columns on top of that. There's a precast concrete block that sits on top of that, and then a 36-foot segment of trail that the trail's then put on. So think of it as a continuous 36-foot long bridge in 500 to 1,500 foot segments. Super cool, pretty wild for Sleepy Little Golden, which isn't so sleepy anymore to have a trail of this significance in this style. I'm happy to talk and get really wonky if anyone wants to about this type of construction, but it's super cool. I will say, next year, we're going to open up the remainder of this 3 miles. So by the end of next year, the remaining 1.5 miles or so will open to the public. In those 2 projects, 3 miles, we'll have 2 trailheads, one about 35 cars and one right around 65, 70, so just over 100 cars, tons of access. We have 8 bridges going in as part of this, one of which is over the highway, which is new to us, 2 of which are suspension bridges, so one will be just like you see in Tunnel 1, across the creek, and we'll have a smaller one on a side tributary that will be more Indiana Jones style. It's going to shake and it's going to bounce and it's going to kind of give you those kind of queasy feelings in the stomach. But that will all open by the end of next year. With that leaves us this last big swooping arrow right here. That's the 6-mile final piece. That's our golden spike. I'm really excited to announce that I am currently, with my team, evaluating proposals for the teams to build that. So by this summer, we will be under contract with the full team to design and build this. That means we'll probably break ground on the first little bit of it next year and give me 6 to 7 more years of dust and 1-lane closures, and the 13.5 miles in Jeffco will be done. Start to finish, thank you. We started this in 2012, so if you give me to 2030-ish, we'll be done. That's 18 years. That's not too bad for a project of this scale and this size. So before I leave you, I'm going to let you know that this trail is big. This trail is known nationally, it's known within the state. It is a quintessential Colorado experience. We've won lots of awards for this. And 2 years ago, the Gateway segment, the one right out here, right at 58, 93, and US 6, that was awarded a grand award from the American Council of Engineering Companies. So they are if you don't know them, they are the who's who of engineering in the country. The grand award is one of the top 8 projects in the entire country. So here in Golden, our trail, your trail, was right there with the new terminal at LaGuardia, was the Seattle Kraken, the NHL team, their new facility, which isn't new, it's a reuse of an old building, but super cool nonetheless. $500 million with a B dollar bridge in LA, a whole redo of the port in Charleston, and this trail. So this is a really, really big deal. And I'm absolutely humbled to be part and just a small piece of something that's going to outlive all of us. And that generations to come are going to come here specifically to ride, walk, run that trail. Kids are going to grow up here, know that trail, get on their bikes, have a little bike posse, go fishing, go climbing, spin a lap at Santana Kona on their mountain bikes. And that's a normal Saturday. And that is awesome, and that's why we're here. And thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for letting me share this. Thank you to Golden Beer Talks. I'm gonna go be a good beer talker, whatever we're called. I'm gonna fill my beer, and thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, our next speaker is Dr. Jeff Squire. He came and spoke with us in 2014. Talk was called, just a sec, Laser Pulses, Focusing Time in Light and Space. He's a professor at the Department of Physics at School of Mines. He has a PhD in optics. When he came, he was talking about novel lensing systems designed to perform delicate eye surgeries using ultra-short laser pulses. And he's going to give us an update. Come on up, Dr. Squire.
All right, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm pleased to see I did talk in 2014, and that's my picture from 2014, and just a little gray highlights that creeped in, not too bad. But yeah, we're excited to give you an update on, before I spoke about how we actually use ultra-short lasers for doing eye surgeries, and I noticed there's fewer people with glasses this time, so thank you very much. But now I want to talk about a little bit more about how we're using this light. And so there at the very top, you see a picture of a femtosecond laser pulse that we've structured spatially and temporally. And just to give you a feeling for what is a femtosecond laser pulse, so you're probably more familiar with what a nanosecond is. A nanosecond is a billionth of a second, and in a billionth of a second, light can travel in imperial units about 12 inches. So what we have in a femtosecond is we take that nanosecond and we chop it up into a million pieces. A millionth of a billionth of a second is a femtosecond. That picture up there is 30 femtoseconds long. So light can travel about the width of a blood cell during that duration. So now we're structuring that light to do new types of optical metrology. Specifically, oh, you probably have one of these in your pocket. So if you're like me and kind of a curious person, you probably already popped the lens out of your phone and are, oh, this needs to come up. All right, so if you're like me, you've actually popped the lens out of your phone, and you look at the sensor behind it, and it's a two-dimensional sensor that creates, and it's got millions of pixels in it. So what we're doing now with the ultrafast laser, we're using the ultrafast laser as a light bulb, but what I can do is I can take a picture, not with millions of pixels, but I can take a picture with 1 pixel. That's it. And I get a 2D picture out of that. And so I can show you more later about that. But what's really cool is the next slide here. If you look at that picture A, that's got some structure in there. That's taken with a conventional camera. And then picture C there, that's labeled with C, that's taken with 1 single pixel with our femtosecond laser pulses. And hopefully you can see that what we've done is with this single pixel camera with a femtosecond laser as a light source, we're getting much, much better definition out of these images. And that's the excitement. What's especially exciting is that because we're only using, if you take a traditional microscope and you've got a traditional camera mounted on your microscope, you can put a biological specimen inside that microscope, but did you ever notice you can't really see deep into it? And that's because the light that is being detected by the camera through the object that you're trying to look at gets scattered, and that scattering causes background, which ultimately completely causes the image to fade. When we're using this single pixel camera, now any light that gets scattered on the way back to that single pixel, it improves the image. It doesn't degrade it. So we can look through scattering things. So in biology, we're excited because the neuroscientists want to use this as a camera to look inside the brain. And then I'm working with the advanced manufacturing companies. So if you're like me, you've probably already built a laser metal 3D printer in your house. You want to know how it works. You want to know how to make it work better. That's the picture down in the corner. So I've taken some steel powder, I'm hitting it with a 50-watt laser, and it just causes this explosion. It causes a melt of that steel powder. And when I trace that laser beam around, it leaves a solid steel trace. And so then what I can do is I lower that bed, and I add another layer of steel powder, and then I trace the laser beam again. And so I follow that process, that recipe again and again, and by the end of the day, I can actually print a jet engine out of metal. So what happens, though, is that, that's a really complicated process. A lot of aerospace companies and stuff are really interested in these types of printers, but the failure rate is quite high. And we can look at that picture. I'm taking that with a conventional camera, and you can kind of see why. There's all this light and spattered particles that are obscuring what you're able to see. Well, we can actually take this femtosecond laser and we shoot it down collinearly with a laser that's melting and creating that trace. And we can take pictures of the melt as it's occurring. So we can see defects as they form, and we're doing it, again, with 1 pixel. So if I try to take images with a traditional camera, like you see in that picture on the far left, I've got millions of pixels I got to process, and I can't keep up with the process. I'm generating so much data, I can't watch what's going on. It really becomes just I'm filling up a hard drive. But with this new camera, it's a single pixel. I'm barely generating any data, and I can follow the thermodynamic state of this metal as it's being printed in real time. And I wish I could show you. So these final 2 curves are actual images from the single pixel camera through that explosion that you're seeing on that other camera. And what's really remarkable is what we do after we've done this experiment. We take that laser metal trace out, we clean it off, and we look at it under a normal microscope. And these images that I show you there, those traces, just overlap perfect with the optical microscope. So we've really got a neat tool for looking at the states of laser matter interaction in processes like this. And then we're also using it for a lot of biomedical, bioscience applications where you're trying to use visible light, that light gets scattered. And we're going to bring images there as well. Now I want to close with, all of this happens with some great math. And you can see my math background. That background of that math is the description of how the light is interacting with the matter. And I hope it's on, if you don't know calculus now, I hope it's on your bucket list. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Well, if you aren't like Jeff, you probably wish you were after some of those descriptions of what it's like to be like Jeff. There are times in the past when we have had the privilege of having more than one speaker at a time. We are going to revisit one of those talks this evening. This is a talk from just last year. Lisa Clark and Jenny Truax came to us last year in the summertime about raising puppies with guide dogs for the blind. They are both volunteers in that capacity and have plenty of other things to do with their time, and this is something they've both been very dedicated to. As Barb mentioned, I have an affinity for the naming of things, and so one of the most amazing things about Guide Dogs for the Blind is all the names. So you will enjoy names such as Twig, Jetson, Fido, and Moose as you get this quick update from Jenny and Lisa. All right, well, I wanted this. All right.
I wanted to thank everybody for and Golden Beer Talks for inviting us back. And I wanted to start by letting you all know that I do not have a doctorate, but I do have a dog. So I'm hoping this works for this audience.
A doctorate.
A doctorate, yes, I have a doctorate. So the last time I was here, I was talking to you about Guide Dogs for the Blind and the club that we had started in Golden. So Jenny and I were puppy raisers for Guide Dogs for the Blind, and we raise puppies who will go to people who are blind or visually impaired. They can also become canine buddies, and those are dogs that go to people who are blind or visually impaired, but they're not service dogs in that capacity, so they're more like pets. And they can also become breeder dogs for the breeding program. So Guide Dogs for the Blind has its own breeding colony, and these dogs are bred specially to do this. And the update that I have for you, all right. So the dog that was here the last time I was here, her name was Twig, and she has been made a breeder, and she's joined the breeding colony for Guide Dogs for the Blind. So we will be getting little Twiglets here shortly, we hope. And the picture that you see on the screen is me and my husband with Twig at her graduation, where we present her to the breeding colony, and we get to meet her breeder custodian, so the person with whom she's living while she's being a breeder for guide dogs. And so to be a breeder custodian, you have to live within 50 miles of the Guide Dogs campus in California, and she's living her best life. So it's a great update for us. We're really thrilled. And right now I have my next dog, Non, here. So he's a male yellow lab, and he's about 13 months old. That's our update. Thank you.
Fall off this platform. All right, well, congratulations to Lisa and Twig. I'm Jenny Truex, and when we were here last year, those of you that were here might remember, I had just returned from a graduation with a dog named Jetson. So Jetson is also living the good life as a guide dog with his partner Chuck up in Canada still. One moment. And I had Fido with me. So Fido is this handsome guy here on the slide, and in the photo you'll see Fido. He's a black lab golden retriever mix, and he's actually posing in his working harness in front of an iron bike piece of art with flowers on it. And if you recall from last year, when the dogs leave us raisers and they go back to campus, if they're on the guide dog track, so different from Twig, who is on the breeder track, Fido is on the guide dog track. And there are 8 phases of training. So in those 8 phases, let's go. In those 8 phases, they learn things like how to look out for overhead obstacles. So I might be walking down the street and there's a branch in my way, but it's not in the dog's way, and the dog has to recognize that and walk their partner around it to safety. Or also in that training, they do some things with choreographed traffic, where they are walking behind a driveway and a car's backing out the driveway. They've got to navigate around it with their partner. They also have something that I think is really cool called intelligent disobedience. I tried it at work today. Didn't work out for me, but the dogs basically disobey their partner, whatever the command or whatever the verbal cue they're given. They may have to make a choice to disobey just to take the person to safety. And I shared with you last year that had happened with Chuck and Jetson, former dog that I mentioned that graduated, when Chuck went to cross the street, and there was he heard the audible signal to cross the street, but a car had run a red light. And so Jetson had to make a quick decision for the two of them and made a sharp left instead of moving forward to steer Chuck to safety. So That's an example of intelligent disobedience. So dogs go through all of that training when they're back on campus, and their final phase, which is phase 8, is their testing phase, and that's the phase that Fido is in now. So that means hopefully in the next maybe couple of weeks, we'll be getting a call that Fido's going to be as he's been placed with his partner, and then they'll go through a couple weeks of training together, and then they'll have a graduation. So that's the update on Fido. Pretty exciting. And then now we've got Moose. So Moose is a 10-month-old yellow lab, and got him in November of last year, and we're hoping to do it all again. So basically, yeah. Thank you for having us, and congratulations on your 100th Beer Talk.
Don't you love the names? There's a story about how they get named even. Pretty cool. Our next and last speaker this evening is Cara Zananti. She came and spoke with us in 2023 about large animal evacuations for wildfire and other emergencies. She is the animal control manager for the Jeffco Sheriff's Office. She manages all these evac operations that you hear about and maybe have participated in if you have large animals when we have wildfire, flood, other kinds of events that come as emergencies. And she has a whole bunch of people she needs to coordinate and make that happen. So we're going to get an update from her because there's always more updates when it comes to wildfire emergencies around here. Thanks, Carla.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to be here and inviting me back. And congratulations on your 100 years. I'll give a little bit of our origin story here. Let me advance the slide. Spacebar. Okay. In 1996, there was a fire in Jefferson County along Highway 285 called the Buffalo Creek Fire. It was a big event for Jefferson County, the Sheriff's Office, and the various fire departments along the canyon. And we got hundreds of calls at Animal Control, people wanting help evacuating their animals. They were either blocked out, they were at work and couldn't get back, they didn't have a horse trailer, any number of reasons they were asking for our help. However, at that time, the fire department and the sheriff's department would not let us in to help. And it became a little bit chaotic. People were fighting with the deputies at the roadblocks, they were sneaking in. There was all sorts of unintended impacts from not allowing us to help people get their animals. So when the High Meadow fire happened in 2000, which was another very large fire event along the 285 corridor, the Sheriff's Office and the fire department both said, please help us help these people with their animals. And so kind of ad hoc, we just kind of showed up. We asked for an all-call for people with horse trailers who wanted to help, anybody who had dog crates that could help us, and we put together an operation that ended up, we moved something like 600 animals out of there. We took care of most of them at the fairgrounds and at our animal shelter, and after the event, those of us who participated got together and said, I think we need to have a plan. We can't call for anybody with a horse trailer. I mean, there was an incident, it was not one of our volunteers, but somebody had randomly shown up to evacuate horses. The horses fell through the floor of the trailer on Highway 285 and were killed. That's the stuff we don't want to happen. So we decided we needed to put together a plan. We needed to vet the volunteers that were going to help. And we needed to, be organized. We needed paperwork. We needed security. We needed trailer checks. We needed communication. All these things that make a team work, we put that together. And so what we ended up with is what we call JCART, which is the Jefferson County Animal Response Team. And basically, it's groups of community organizations that have some other purpose. I have a full-time job. I don't have the time to be a volunteer manager. So what I decided to do was work with organizations that already had a purpose, already met, already had a structure, and brought those groups into the fold. And so we have, for instance, the Jefferson County Horse Council. I'm sure you all know Frank. He's the president of the Horse Council. He's also the leader of the Jefferson County Horse Council Emergency Evacuation Team. And that's the group that I call when we need to set up a livestock shelter at the fairgrounds. We've got 2 large animal evacuation teams. We have one small animal evacuation team that used to be a group of dog mushers, and they have these wonderful trailers that hold about 20 dogs. And so instead of us running back and forth up and down the mountain with 6 dogs in our trucks, we could load them all up in the trailer and make one trip. So they were definitely an asset to our group. Our large animal evacuation groups, one originated as the Jefferson County Mounted Posse, and they broke into 2 groups. We have the Front Range Animal Evacuation Team, and we also have the Jeffco HEAT, which stands for Horse Evacuation and Assistance Team. So those are the people we call out to move the large animals and the small animals. Our partners are very important. The fairgrounds is amazing. We couldn't do any of what we do without them. The Foothills Animal Shelter opens their doors for people who are evacuating their own pets and provides sheltering and care at no cost during the event. We have a group of people who show up at the Red Cross Center. They set up temporary small animal sheltering there, so people who show up with their dogs and cats who need to stay at the Red Cross facility can bring their pets, and there's somebody to take care of them. If they need to leave them during the day while they go work with their insurance or try to figure out, what they need to do to rebuild their lives, there's a safe place and competent people to take care of their pets. Over the years, we've deployed more than 28 times. We've impounded thousands of animals, cared for them, and make sure they all got safely home. And all these years, since 2000 when we started, we've not misplaced a single animal in all that time. So our organization, our paperwork has paid off, and we have a pretty well-ready machine when these things happen. Most recently, the summer last year, we had the quarry fire. And just for an example of the work that the volunteers do, we assisted 522 animals in that event. 297 went to Frank and Fran at the Jeffco Fairgrounds. We had 125 animals housed at the Foothills Animal Shelter. And at our Red Cross facility at Dakota Ridge High School, we had 100 animals that we provided temporary care for or respite. During this event, we had 1,913.5 volunteer hours, which is amazing. 1,789 of those were with the Jefferson County Horse Council in the operation of the fairgrounds. The thing with the fairgrounds is that you can't come pick up your horse in your car and take it home. You have to make arrangements to get your horses home. You have to make sure your pasture and your barn are safe. So those operations go on for some time, and it was almost 2 weeks that Frank and Fran and crew were at the fairgrounds taking care of animals. And my staff put in about 521 hours. We also were the very grateful recipients of about $13,000 in donations from the public, from a group called Fleet of Angels. It's a nonprofit that helps equine emergency all over the country, and they were very generous. It was very hot. We needed cooling apparatus at the barns to keep the animals cool. We had to buy things for chickens and pigs and things that we didn't have the necessary supplies for, and Fleet of Angels was instrumental in getting those things taken care of for us. And just to close, I'll give you one story. This is a story about Frank Blaha and Fran Evers at the fairgrounds. One day, a couple showed up in their jeans and their work shirts, and said they wanted to, they were employees at the sheriff's office and they wanted to give a hand, and was there something that they could do? So Fran signed them right up, had them sign their volunteer release and agreement, and put them to work mucking stalls. And as they were finishing, Fran asked the lady, she said, well, what do you do for the sheriff's office? And it was Reggie Marinelli, and she said, well, I'm the sheriff. So Fran and Frank were unbelievably gobstruck and couldn't believe they were ordering the sheriff around, but they did their part, and as a thank you, the Sheriff's Office awarded the Jefferson County Horse Council this year the 2004 Sheriff's Office Award winner for the Nonprofit of the Year. So their work was instrumental, and we couldn't do it without them. And hopefully we won't have to go to work again soon on this, but thank God I have all these volunteers, because we do a good service for people and animals and people are important too, just like science and trails. So thank you very much.
While I page us back, I'm going to make note that the Frank Blaha mentioned in that particular update is the same Frank Blaha who is our beer ambassador. So I'm just going to draw that connection. And what a remarkable guy. What a blessing to have his help with our endeavors as well. I'm just going to go back to this screen. We said at the beginning that here at Golden Beer Talks we begin and end with gratitude. So there's really no better way for us to take a look back at our 100 gatherings than to count our gratitudes. So we're going to do that quickly. Afterward, we will take a break. We will come back for Q&A, and we hope you'll stick around. Just a quick rundown. We've had, as we count them, 100 gatherings. We've had 2 venues, the Windy Saddle and the Buffalo Rose, to whom we are deeply grateful in both respects. We have had 14 different people come through and serve on our team. 6 of them are current. You've seen a few of them tonight. I'm going to highlight them all for you that are here in the room. I think we've all discussed Frank Blaha quite a bit. He's not here tonight, but he is usually here, and he is a lovely human. You should meet him next time you're here. His wife, Barbara Warden, down here, goldentoday.com. Dr. Jim Clausen, the artisan who created this most amazing PowerPoint slide you've ever seen in your entire living life. And lots of other gifts to Golden Beer Talks. Our quietest, kind of backsceniest member of the team, wearing the black t-shirt, trying to blend into the black wall, over here on the AV, soundboard guy, Bart Sheldrake. Next to him, the most lovely, the most multi-talented, Becky Bryce. She's kind of also going for the background thing. My name is Whitney Painter. I am married to the Bart Sheldrake, aforementioned, and he and I have been on this team since it first started. There are some others who have served, come and gone. I'm going to give their names right now because you may know them in the community and may want to thank them or just send out some energy for them. So Pamela Gould was, as Barb mentioned, one of our original founding members, and she and her husband were on the team for quite some time. Matt Birdie and his wife Yoko also served with us for a good period of time. Deanne and Brett Weber, the owners of the Windy Saddle, served with us as well. And Karen Smith and Don Sweetkind also have been on our team. So just mentioning them, running that all down, that's 14 major gratitudes right there. As Jim mentioned, we have hosted 23 different breweries, many of them repeats. There was a period of time when we were at the Windy Saddle when it would come around to the rotation and we would get down to the Coors Brewery. And at that time, we took a kind of casual approach to the beer acquisition, and Fred Linton, who is in the room tonight, I think I saw him come in, he would show up with a whole cooler full of Coors offerings for us. So I can't count how many different kinds of beer were offered in that situation. Beyond that, I think we've offered about 50 different beers in that time. So that's a lot of beers to taste. We're up to the task. I mean, being a volunteer on this particular board, you know, we have to go to a lot of breweries and try a lot of beers to pull this off. So in our time, we've tasted a lot more than 50 probably. We have, as I mentioned, had some return speakers. We have had some dual speakers. In this entire time altogether, we've had 93 different speakers on our stage in one way or another, offering their wisdoms to our group. 11 of them have been repeats once or sometimes twice. We had a period of time during the aforementioned pandemic when we tried for a period to kind of, you know, go online, because at that time we had no idea how long it would last, and we had 4 of our former speakers step up and make really beautiful Zoom-based presentations for our group. And then after 4 months, we realized people did not want any more Zoom in their life, and we backed down on that. But that was a special gift, because it was a time when the very concept of beer talks and conviviality and connection and community was what was missing in our lives the most. And these 4 different speakers really stepped up and filled that in. And our team, you know, working remotely, not even seeing each other, really scrambled together to make those presentations happen. So they're extremely special to us. We call them the at-home series. We've had thousands of audience members. That's you guys. Thank you. You're amazing. We are so grateful. The people who come once, the people who come every time, we love you all. And every single one of you makes this happen. So thank you very much for being here tonight, for being here other times. Oh, wake up, wake up, wake up. Oh, goodness. I don't know what's going to happen. Everybody, act natural. That's what I do anytime there's a PowerPoint emergency. I just pretend I meant to do it that way. See how I did that? One gratitude we cannot count. It is truly an uncountable thing. When we started, we thought, maybe we'll give people a reason to go downtown in the evenings. And we have now racked up an uncountable number of reasons to go downtown in the evenings. Thank you. Yeah. We will take a quick break, and we are coming back. Hope you'll have another beer or a snack. Hello, curious beer drinkers. Greetings. Hello. So we are going to start the Q&A for those who have Qs and those who have As. So if you were a speaker this evening and you're still in the house, if you don't mind edging this direction just in case you get a question, this is how we're going to do it. Becky, down here, has the roving microphone. So if you have a question, you know, arms up, we'd like to record your question along with the answer because we are making a video of this event. And it allows us to record in perpetuity your wise question. So when you have a question, hands up in the air, Becky will come and record your question and offer it here up to the speaker, and the speaker will come up here and answer your question. So here we go. Who has a question? Get those arms up.
Hi, this is for the lady from J-Cart. So my question is, if you have large animals in Jefferson County, should you register that information so in case of a wildfire and the family's out of, not at that barn, how do you accommodate that?
Well, my number one suggestion is absolutely you could register your animals with us if you want to, but a better option may be Smart 911, where you can register and provide information about your household, not only your pets, but if you have handicapped individuals in the home, if you have, we hide the key under the flower pot on the back porch, or You can put all sorts of information in the Smart 911 that's only visible to the emergency dispatcher. And if you have animals, they can share that information with us. But again, if you want to register your animals with us, we're happy to put a record in our system.
Cool. Got a question here?
Question for this gentleman.
Yeah, there he does, there he does.
Run, run, run. So a question about your two pictures. You had A, that was a two-dimensional picture, and then the one on the single pixel. So what's essentially the time difference between the two-dimensional image and you with your single pixel scanning to create your higher resolution picture with the femtosecond exposures?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. We got all kinds of time scales that we can go through. So the normal camera that we took, that picture was about a millisecond. And with our structured light, we can do that same kind of field of view on the same time scales. But what's really cool is we've developed it so that each line can actually be taken with one 30 femtosecond pulse. So it still would take us maybe a couple of 100 microseconds to generate one image, but each exposure is only 30 femtoseconds long. So we're kind of looking at this whole new world of where we can actually hit something with an ultrafast laser and modify that material and then take a movie of that light matter interaction with this new technology.
My question's for Carla. Hello. So I was curious, I used to participate with the Jefferson County Horse Council with the emergency evacuation thing at the fairgrounds, and it was really an intense situation over there. But so for a couple of years ago, I thought the fairgrounds was trying to be sold or something. Do you know the status of the fairgrounds? Like, is it still something that is permanently available for this evacuation situation? Or?
For the foreseeable future, at one point the county commissioners were considering selling it, closing it down. I think they got a lot of pushback from the community, and the community wanted to keep it as the resource that it is. So for the foreseeable future, the fairgrounds is available to us. I don't know what the future holds. I've heard some rumors that they may want to move the fairgrounds to a different location in the county. I don't have any confirmation on that or even where it would be, but you know, these rumors pop up once in a while, but I think at least for the foreseeable future, we're safe right where we're at.
Peaks to Plains. I know we've all been up there, it seemed like, so I just had, you had hinted at Glenwood Canyon and some comparisons there. I was wondering if you could go into a little more depth on maybe the comparison between the two. Obviously, we're not putting a new highway in stacked like that, but the trail and the length and the cost and the time to pull something off and how it was financed and any of those comparisons, since most of us have been through both canyons.
Sure. So I think the big similarity is that elevated structure, that viaduct structure. In previous segments, a lot of what you've seen have been deep cuts where we're actually drilling nails or pins underneath the highway to hold up that uphill wall, and or we have a downhill wall. Because basically anytime you're taking something on the slope and you want to make it flat, you're either going to have an uphill wall or downhill wall or both. That's really costly. It also requires us to put something underneath CDOT's road. While they're amenable to it, it's never really in anyone's best interest to put something underneath someone else's highway. So that viaduct structure, while it's within CDOT's right of way, it's a kind of counterintuitive way to look at a heavy civil construction technique that actually has a really light touch. So similar to Glenwood, when you build that, you have a really intensive touch in a small area, and then you build a bridge. So that's what we're doing. We're building that bridge, the willows come back, all the vegetation comes back. So that's really the similarity. That 3-mile segment is gonna come in somewhere around $80 million. I know that's an enormous number, and everyone's head instantly is doing 3 million or 3 miles, 80 million. That's X dollars per mile. I think the really important piece to remind everyone is this is not just the Peaks and Plains Trail. This is the build out of Clear Creek Canyon Park, which in many ways is akin to a national park in terms of the scale and the effort going into it and what the resource will be at the end. We bought the canyon, pretty much everything that is the canyon is owned by the county, minus CDOT's right of way, which is 150 feet in either direction off the center line, minus a couple of small in-holdings between BLM and one private landowner who owns pretty much everything else that we don't own. That took us 20 odd years to buy that, 40 odd individual land transactions, and we just slapped signs on either end of the canyon. Probably all seen them, most of them are still there. Just says, welcome to Clear Creek Canyon Park, or Clear Creek Canyon Park. That's all we ever did. So the 150 odd years of use and abuse that always happened is what that park was. This project is building out that park. It's closing sketchy pullouts. We've been through there on a Saturday. Every nook and cranny, especially in the summer, is filled. There are cars everywhere. People swing open the doors. The dogs, not these dogs, but the other dogs, start running everywhere. Strollers come out. Kids start running. It's not safe. So we're creating that safe experience in that safe park. In terms of that $80 million, I'm giving you a rough number. Because each project, there are always contingencies built in. We're not going to use all the contingencies, so where that final number is going to be is somewhere around $80 million. We have $7 million from Great Outdoors Colorado, so that's the state lottery money. We have $10.25 million from Dr. Cog. Does everyone know Dr. Cog? The Denver Regional Council of Governments. So that's the consortium of all the municipalities around. And they're basically taking some federal highway money going through Dr. Cog to CDOT to us. So there's $7 million plus $10.25. The delta there, that $60 odd million, is the dedicated sales tax that the voters initiated and approved in 1972. The League of Women Voters. I don't know if anyone's around for that, but I am here and I have a job because of the backs of those folks. They're not all women, mainly women, but that dedicated sales tax is the reason why I have a job today and the reason why we are doing life-changing stuff out there. The stuff that's going to be around for generations. So I kind of rambled. I probably hit a little bit of your questions. Any other pieces of that, or can I go finish my beer?
Yeah, drink up. Cheers.
Okay, we have one more question, time for one more question, and I think it's a double question.
I have a double question. It's a dog question and a microbe question. On the dogs, I was at the Avalanche game the other night, and they played a video about how to interact with service animals, which I thought was fantastic. And I was just wondering if the guide dog program, works to promote those kind of things. And my microbe question has to do with carbon sequestration and where does that rank in our ability to reduce carbon? Is that the best situation?
Lisa, go ahead and answer the one about the carbon.
I'm all over people. All right, so in terms of videos and kind of public education, I'm actually in the middle of trying to fundraise to put together an explainer video. GDB has a couple of these. If you go out to their site, it's guidedogs.com. And if you're interested in learning how to interact with the service dog, just all sorts of things about this community, they have explainer videos. They're great. Maybe similar to what you saw at the game, but animated shorts on just kind of etiquette in general. So it is something for sure that Guide Dogs put some content out about. that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
So for the carbon sequestration question, great question. I think a couple of things to think about are oil is a precious resource. We need it for everything that it can make for us, like the shirt I'm wearing, pants, my car. We got to stop burning it. It's too precious to burn. So making gasoline is a waste. And future generations are going to look back at us and say, you had the world's best resource and you burned it. So we got to stop burning it. Because I think going into future generations, we're always going to need oil. We're always going to need gas. Second thing about that is to do things like geosequestration of carbon in a place like Oman is just taking a chip off of a single glacier. You know, we're just taking chips off of it. And the glacier is huge. A friend of mine named Will Barrelson is at the University of Southern California, and Will works on carbon sequestration. I've done some stuff with him. They are working on carbon sequestration for things like container ships. If you want to make a carbon neutral container ship, you need about 1/4 of the volume of a container ship to put the guts in it that could scrub the carbon out of the burn that moves the container ship around the world. Right now, that's the best technology we could have. You could do a thing where you have a towed vessel behind a container ship that's doing the scrubbing, but it would be better if it's in one vessel because it's like, you know, you're not towing a trailer. So I worry about that. That's our best technology right now in 2025. Maybe we're going to be farther along in 2035, but the main thing that we can all do, I think, is stop burning it. And if you got to go to Denver, for example, combine 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 trips into one. Do it all in one trip. Don't take 6 trips to Denver or 6 trips to Washington, D.C. or whatever it might be. I think we just need to think about how we need to build our own personal ethic around that. That's my answer. Yeah. And great question.
So apologies, we have one little more question.
Hi, for Jim Dale, please. I wanted to know if we should be worried about the eggs we eat, and do we need to cook them extra and that sort of thing.
Well, what we know right now, eggs don't transmit bird flu. Is it possible? Sure, but you have to have the virus in the right cells and the reproductive tract. And from what I've been told and read, don't worry about it. But we eat salmonella and E. coli and all this stuff all the time. So you just cook it and... Oh, I eat runny eggs. I really think that you got to get a dose of anything, and you're not going to get a dose. I've never... The germs are on the outside of the shell, not on the inside of the egg, for the most part. We can talk food for a long time, too.
All right, everyone. I feel like I'm channeling Whitney by saying I have the supreme honor of closing out the evening. It is a skeleton crew now, but I still think we can together give thanks in 5 ways. The first is to our speakers for tonight. Yeah. It is actually... Speaking from experience, it's a huge challenge to be asked to speak for 5 minutes and not 20 minutes. So congrats to them for meeting that challenge. The second is to our breweries who have met us in the past, but who also showed up for this evening. The third is the Buffalo Rose. Big thanks to the Buffalo Rose who hosts us here. And also is really engaged with our efforts and supports us with everything that we're doing in social media and in other ways. So that social media is a little plug if you want to go to Facebook, look us up. The fourth is the Golden Bear Talks Organizing Committee.
who is, I know it's been referenced a couple times tonight, but who is a group of volunteers who do this because we really care about the community, we really care about this effort. So big thank you to them. And lastly, to you who show up and listen to our talks, drink the beer with us. Whitney's word, conviviality, is kind of how we really want this to be, and it's so meaningful to us, and we thank you for being here tonight. One last, oh, yes, Jim, thank you. And one last reminder, next month, we're going to be at the Astor House, which is, off-site, but hopefully a really interesting new way to kind of think about Golden Beer Talks. So hope to see you next month. And then we'll be back here in June. Thank you, Whitney. Okay, have a great night.